Hi there! Let me know if you've been there. You wake up after what felt like a solid night's sleep, feeling pretty restored, only to check your wearable and see a modest sleep score of 81. Or the opposite, you wake up groggy and unrested, but your tracker proudly flashes 86 points, just 14 short of that perfect 100%. Wait a second, 100% of what exactly? What's going on here? Intuitively, it makes a lot of sense. The higher the score, the better the sleep. This kind of life gamification can be motivating, even fun. It turns sleep into something we can track, optimize, or even compete over. But here's the twist. Chances are you came across this guy, Brian Johnson. He claims he's been scoring 100% on sleep night after night for months. Sounds impressive to say the least. But do we even know what a sleep score is? What is it grounded in? What does your 100% mean versus mine or Brian's? And how do the commercial sleep trackers used by us stack up against the gold standard used by sleep scientists? Let's find out together. And for those who are new to this channel, Michael here. I am a biologist and biotech enthusiast who spent over 6 years studying to become a biomedical researcher. Journey which took me through the leading institutions around the world. Currently, I support biomedical enterprises in growing their business by bridging the latest technology with practical applications. On this channel, I dive deep into the health-relevant topics, often controversial topics, and try to make them more accessible for you and as well for myself. Despite my best efforts to ground my material in the good data, I'm a human and capable of errors. All opinions are my own and do not constitute medical advice. For that, please consult your doctor. Now buckle up and let's go. What is a sleep score? It's 2025 and by now most people have used or at least heard of wearables and commercial sleep trackers. So the idea of a sleep score isn't entirely new. Like in a video game, the higher the score, the better. But here's the problem. We're all different. Age, ethnicity, gender, body mass, lifestyle, all vary. And the devices themselves, they use different sensors, different algorithms, and different databases to interpret your night. So where does this 100 magical score come from? I got curious and dug into how these scores are actually made. But before we talk about wearables, we need to understand what sleep is and how the real sleep science works. Now, a few words about sleep. I made a more detailed video on that topic, which I encourage you to take a look over here. But in a nutshell, it's an active biological process during which we practically stay immobile, our consciousness is altered, and our brain cycles through stages which we refer to as rapid eye movement or non-rapid eye movement phases of sleep. And these are characterized by distinct brain patterns. Scientists use the method called polysomnography or PSG, the gold standard in sleep research. So what is PSG? Poly stands for multiple and graphy for recording or writing. PSG is done in a sleep lab and measures a bunch of signals. Electroencephalogram for brain waves, electrooculogram for eye movement, electromyogram for muscle activity, airflow and heart rate with electrocardiogram, and sometimes SpO2 for oxygen saturation with photophotismogram, chest and abdominal movement, plenty of endpoints. And sleep scientists, also called somnologists, then analyze these recordings against clinical norms. They look at how much time you spent in each sleep stage, how efficiently you slept, how often you woke up, and whether any disruptions like apnea, in other words, if you stopped breathing for some time, occurred. Is there a sleep score in PSG? Actually, no. There's no single number. In clinical sleep science, sleep quality is assessed through a set of metrics like sleep efficiency, sleep onset latency, REM and deep sleep proportions, wake time after sleep onset. There's no score, just patterns matched against reference values and symptom context. And here I listed the examples of what's considered to be reasonable values for these parameters. You might be curious to compare this with the readings on your tracker. Now, entering the sleep score provided by our sleep trackers.
And when you compare these sleep trackers, unfortunately, they're not quite accurate. They either overestimate or underestimate.
But to be fair, that was over 6 years ago. How are we doing now? The sleep score is a numerical value, usually on a scale from 0 to 100, where the higher number implies better sleep efficiency, better quality, as defined by this device's algorithm. It's a proxy, an abstraction, a score created by combining the readings from just a few sensors, far from a full PSG setup. Since it's a proprietary, in a way, a black box algorithm, how do we know that we can trust it? Well, there are validation studies for this purpose. Before launching to the public, most reputable sleep trackers companies do a validation study. Volunteers sleep in a lab with PSG plus the wearable, or any sleep tracker for that matter. The device collects heart rate, motion, temperature, and potentially other endpoints. That data is mapped against PSG-labeled sleep stages, and machine learning models are trained to predict sleep architecture, or at least to approximate it. Once the model is trained, it runs directly on your finger, wrist, or bedside, estimating your sleep quality from the readings it can observe. Compared to PSG, most wearables only track 3 to 5 input signals. That is, PPG or polysomnography, the optic reading of vascular contraction for heart rate, HRV, respiratory rate, accelerometer for movement, in other words, actigraphy, temperature sensor for circadian rhythm, monitoring and illness detection, SpO2 sensor to check for blood oxygen saturation in some models, and maybe a gyroscope or ambient light sensor. Now, I find heart rate variation, HRV, especially cool because it's like a window into how our autonomic nervous system works during sleep. It doesn't just track the heart rate, it tracks the variability between your heartbeats, indicating whether you are in a recovery mode or stress mode. The higher the HRV, the higher the activation of your parasympathetic nervous system, showing that you're in a recovery versus flight or fight. And during the night, this variation helps estimate whether you are in a deep NREM or REM sleep, because the nervous system behaves differently across them. That's it. No brain waves, no eye tracking, no EEG or EMG. In short, sleep trackers rely on a small subset of physiological signals and smart algorithms trained to detect patterns. What should we make out of it? This doesn't mean that wearables are useless, quite far from it. Even though they don't see brain waves and cannot track sleep with clinical precision, they're surprisingly good at recognizing general sleep patterns. Most devices have very high sensitivity, meaning that they're great at detecting when you're asleep. And although the sleep staging is still a rough estimate, especially for deep NREM versus REM sleep, the overall trends they capture, such as bedtime consistency, total duration, restlessness, can be very meaningful over time. In fact, for healthy people without serious sleep disorders, wearables can be a great tool to build awareness, consistency, and observe how different behaviors such as alcohol consumption, late meals, and stress influence their sleep quality. Just take this course with a grain of salt. Coming back to Brian Johnson, wouldn't you want to give it a try and repeat his cool achievement of scoring 100% sleep night after night? Well, first, it helps to know that he's using a Whoop strap for tracking his sleep. And the thing is, even if you wore the same device, you might not get the same score. And even you might get different scores on the same night just by wearing different devices. Here's why. Even for the same person, different trackers may give different results. First of all, they have different sensors. Some devices collect more types of data than others and with better quality. Oura tracks skin temperature. Garmin includes SpO2. Apple Watch leans more on movement and heart rate. Different inputs, different conclusions. Then, the companies have different algorithms applied in their devices. Each brand uses its own proprietary algorithm to interpret your night. Whoop, for example, Brian's choice, emphasizes recovery balance and HRV trends. Fitbit might weigh total sleep time more heavily. No two devices score you the same way. And last but not the least, they have different training data. These models are trained on different subpopulations, different ages, lifestyles, physiology. Some include professional athletes and regular people. Some include only regular, healthy sleepers. What's normal in Whoop's dataset may not be normal in Aura's, and it might not be you either. And bear in mind, people who struggle with sleep and have sleep disorders are underrepresented in those tested subpopulations. So if you are concerned that you have issues with sleep, please don't rely on your sleep tracker alone. It's really better to go to medical professionals and check yourself in a qualified sleep lab. Next time, when you get a score that doesn't correspond to your subjective feeling, don't get surprised, because now you know how it works. Cut some slack for your device and its limitations. Don't stress over 100%. Use your wearable as a compass, not as a report card. And if you do hit these 100 points, like Brian, awesome! Just remember what it actually means. And if you find this video helpful and interesting, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. I'm always keen on feedback and would love to explore more such topics together with you in the future. Thank you, and until next time.